Definition of the method. The philosophy of Scamper is based on the concept that any idea has emerged from another idea. Scamper is a practical and joyful brainstorming technique in a discussion method, leading to an actual implementation in real life and supporting creative thinking. The Scamper brainstorming technique uses steps to review an object. Main components of the method. Scamper is the most convenient technique for students to use when they reach a dead end, or when they are about to steer away from the core of the subject. The questions used help to think fluently and flexibly, so that the questions supply a creative thinking system. Scamper is a series of thinking systems aimed at a specific object. While implementing Scamper, a unique object is chosen and transformed, improved, disintegrated, or compounded with other objects through a brainstorming process. Questions are asked so that different opinions emerge, enabling learners to develop their creativity as they start thinking in new ways about an object. Suitability for STEAM. Scamper is a technique that aims to guide the students to produce several opinions, engaging in high-order thinking to create more objective results. Besides, joyful communication activities nourish students' creativity. Scamper games allow students to experience and learn the skills of authors, inventors, and composers. Scamper is particularly effective for inventions and animal adaptations. Through Scamper, imaginary exercises are applied to mathematics, chemistry, history, language, and art classes. Furthermore, enthusiasm and willingness to engage in creative thinking and design processes can foster engineering skills. Integrating STEAM with social emotional aspects. The Scamper technique is also known as a divergent thinking process, a fun technique that can improve students' creativity and their creative confidence. Their readiness, engagement, and willingness to participate in hands-on activities as scientists, as well as exchanging ideas and supporting each other, are evidence of their increased levels of interest in science learning and engineering design, and of their ability to address complex challenges. Scamper is an activity-based thinking process that can be performed by cooperative learning. Scamper is used during the initial ideation stage so as to steer away from a conventional way of thinking in order to generate a wide range of new ideas that will lead to new insights, original ideas, and creative solutions to problems. Implementation in the classroom. According to the English dictionary, Scamper means to run with quick light steps, especially through fear or excitement. The acronym stands for an educational technique covering 7 steps, as developed by Eberle in 1977. But let's look at the letters which make up the acronym. S stands for substitute. Think about substituting parts of the product or process for something else. Typical questions are: what else instead? Who else instead? What other materials, ingredients, processes, power, sounds, approaches, or forces might I substitute? Which other place may I use instead? C stands for combine. Think about combining 2 or more parts of the product or process to create something new or to leverage synergies. Typical questions are: what mix, assortment, alloy, or ensemble might I blend? What ideas, purposes, or units might I combine? A stands for adapt. Think about which parts of the product or process could be adapted, or how you might change the nature of the product or process. Typical questions are: does the past offer a parallel? What else is like this? What other ideas does this suggest? What might I adapt for a solution? What might I copy? Who might I emulate? M stands for modify, minify, or magnify. Think about changing parts or all of the product or process, or distorting it in an unusual way. Typical questions are: what other meaning, colour, motion, sound, smell, form, or shape might I adopt? What might I add? P stands for put to another use. Think of how you might put a product or process to another use, or how you might reuse something from somewhere else. Typical questions are: what new ways are there to use this? Might this be used in other places? Which other people might I reach? To what other users might this be put once modified? E stands for eliminate. Think of what might happen if you eliminated parts of the product or process, and consider what you might do in that situation. Typical questions are: what might I miss? What might I eliminate? What might I streamline? What might I make smaller, lower, shorter, or lighter? R stands for reverse. Think of what you might do if parts of the product or process worked in reverse or were sequenced differently. Typical questions are: what might be rearranged? What other pattern, layout, or sequence might I adopt? Can components be interchanged? Should I change pace or schedule? Can positives and negatives be swapped? Could roles be reversed? Whereas each letter is applied separately on different samples and subjects, all letters are used when addressing a situation, a challenge, or a defined subject. For instance, a familiar tale is presented to the students, asking them to dissect the tale in its different elements, and then to recompose an original tale using all the elements they previously found, such as place, characters, time, events, etc. Following the Scamper questions. Strategies for girl-friendly approaches, and to include disadvantaged students. When setting the scene, use gender-neutral language as far as possible. Using words like everyone and class to address the students are examples of good gender-neutral language. Ensure that everyone receives a similar share of airtime and everyone is actively engaged. Ask probing questions if needed. Criticize no idea, as wild as it might appear to be. In fact, try to encourage outlandish ideas, as they are very useful to open up the conversation. Encourage students to build upon one another's idea. Provide specific, repeated, evidence-based, personal and collective encouragement. Be flexible in giving students opportunities to build and check understanding. Students' role. The questions make learners think about a defined subject, even if it is unfamiliar to them. These questions represent impulsive actions, intended to stimulate various thinking skills. They encourage students to discover by developing their higher-order thinking skills. These questions also create an amazing atmosphere for students to develop their creativity and their own opinions. Furthermore, they teach to think flexibly and to discard stereotypes. The teacher determines the specific problem students need to solve. The students then brainstorm a wide range of solutions, using the different techniques defined by the acronym. Recording every idea expressed during the brainstorming without judging it increases the production of creative ideas. The students apply the technique, following each step indicated by the letters of the acronym. The teacher acts as an assistant by addressing any question, contradiction, or conflict that may arise. Assessment and evaluation. In the Scamper approach, the learning outcomes are considered in terms of creative ideas generated, production of tangible artifacts, and documentation of solutions found to given problems. Therefore, discipline-agnostic, validated, and reliable formative assessment methods are better placed to effectively gauge the learning success. At the same time, students are provided with the data and rubrics used for the evaluation. They will be better equipped to speak specifically about the strengths and weaknesses, and together with the teacher, map a way forward to reach the mastery of the standards required. Much of the learning requires the teacher to observe and to listen. The most useful evidence is gathered during the inquiry process. The teacher needs to be skilled in observing students and engaging them in conversation while they are working, to be able to understand the thought process they are following. The work is assessed in terms of cognitive skills, learning how to learn, social skills, collaboration, dealing with conflict, and creative skills, originality, presentation skills, and so forth. Strengths and weaknesses. Whereas the Scamper technique has been used for visual design to compose creative, productive ideas, some shortcomings can be observed, like the lack of inclusion of the educational context in early childhood education. Although the new technique is challenging, lessons promote student engagement, creative thinking, and the ability to recall content knowledge. Scamper can be utilized for learners who lack motivation, who have learning difficulties. Scamper is used as a learning tool that fosters awareness, drive, fluency, flexibility, and originality. Using a rigid acronym approach to creative thinking may seem counterintuitive, as less extrovert individuals might choose not to speak. Individuals may hold back extravagant ideas for fear of judgment. People tend to agree because they don't want to disrupt the status quo. The technique can be adapted by having each student writing down their input to the various components before having a group discussion.